Okay, so I chose to do my senior seminar on the topic healthy, which I'm trying to figure out what healthy means. So, if you look at this word, is there anything that comes to mind when you see the word healthy? Anything else? Good. Well, my aim is not to define healthy once and for all, but to show why it's a complex definition and find ways that we can apply it more biblically. I personally have struggled with defining healthy for myself, which is what led me to choose this as my topic. The word healthy can have such a negative connotation and can lead to overall misinterpretation of the word itself. So first I'm going to start with the World Health Organization definition of the word health. They define health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. But what are people misinterpreting about the definition? Well, they're misinterpreting the word complete. The WHO means when claiming that the health is complete physical, mental, and social well-being, that it is holistic. And holistic health means not just not having a disease or injury, but it's referring to the whole person, as we talked about in class. So it refers to physical, mental, emotional, and social aspects. However, I don't have time to dive deep into each of these topics because they're all complex on their own. Throughout my presentation, I will tend to focus on the word itself while using examples of healthy eating to convey my point. The stigma around the word healthy eating often revolves around misconceptions. Some people perceive those who prioritize healthy eating as overly strict or judgmental about others' food choices. There can also be social pressure to conform to unhealthy eating habits in certain environments, which ultimately leads to a negative perception of those who make healthy food choices. This quote really stood out to me, and I think it encapsulates the entire meaning or purpose of my project. It says, a cacophony of conversation around fad diets and what is healthy left Americans confused about what information to believe when they are in the grocery aisle. This quote stood out to me because I myself have felt this confusion before. There have been many times where I would walk into the grocery store worried about if what I was buying was correct or healthy. I would spend ample amounts of time wandering the aisles and reading nutrition labels in order to determine whether or not to buy the item. The word healthy can be so confusing, and I wanted to find out why. I first wanted to find out what qualifies the word healthy to be used on food labels. In 2024, the FDA reevaluated the criteria for the word healthy to be used on food packaging. The FDA recognizes dietary trends in America, and they found that Americans struggle to maintain a healthy diet. But this is mainly due to the types of food that are available in stores. My thought was, how can we change this? And I think that by regulating the use of the word healthy on food packaging will help the majority of people in stores when looking at food items. If the item is labeled as healthy, they would most likely be more inclined to buy it if their goal is to be healthier. But if the product is mislabeled as healthy, there is no benefit to the buyer and the American statistic remains unchanged. But what is the problem? Why is it so hard to deem something as healthy? Well, the definition of the word healthy keeps evolving, making it difficult to regulate its qualification of use. There is an apparent shift in the past 30 years in which one healthy focuses on the amounts of supplemental and vitamin and mineral intake, whereas the other in more recent years tends to put a heavy emphasis on food subgroups like carbs, fats, sugars, etc. as their means of healthy. So why has the definition changed? Well, U.S. dietary guidelines change every 5 years, which in turn causes confusion around the word itself. However, the answer is pretty simple. The definition evolves due to healthcare advancements, scientific discoveries, overall lifestyles, or something we may not even think of. Some countries may not have the same access to resources as we do in the US, or they may have adverse cultural values causing significant influence on the meaning of the word healthy. In that case, I think the entire meaning of the word healthy all boils down to perception. There are many different lenses that people view what is and isn't healthy through. There's different approaches like calorie in, calorie out, whole food, organic, the amount of processing, animal origin, or other fad or trendy diets like keto, sugar free, carnivore, etc. The point is that there is no right definition as to what is and what isn't healthy. Health can be different from person to person, and it all depends on how you personally perceive healthiness. Although health can be perceived different from person to person, I think it is important to point out the indicators of health and how they can sometimes be corrupt. So, this is the most common indicator of health called BMI, which stands for body mass index. So, let's say, many people are being misdiagnosed as unhealthy due to prior health indicators like BMI. Let's say an athlete's BMI score reads in the overweight range, considering them as unhealthy. So, if you're a D1 athlete with heavy muscle mass, you're not considered healthy. That's the problem. A calculation cannot determine whether or not someone is healthy because being healthy is a lifestyle and not a calculation. Um, Next, I think it is very important to note that social media can shift people's meaning of the word healthy. Many social media accounts fall victim to idealizing dangerous habits but promoting them as healthy. For example, you may see a post on social media claiming this eating habit is healthy, this workout will make you healthy, or in this case, the 10 best fat burning drinks while you're not losing fat, etc. But what they're actually doing is promoting unsafe habits that aren't healthy, such as eating disorders, body image issues, etc. I think it is important for you to define your definition of healthy before you let someone else persuade you into thinking what they are doing is right and healthy just to make a quick buck. And I think it's also cool to point out that all four of these posts were found on my Instagram Explore feed within 4 minutes of each other. But what does the Bible have to say about it? I chose to break my biblical integration down into three pieces. Why should we be healthy? How can we be healthy? And what is healthy? Biblically, why does God want and intend us to be healthy? Well, in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, it says, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. This verse highlights the idea that we should be healthy because our bodies are a gift from God that we are called to protect. But how can we be healthy? In Exodus 15:26, God speaks to the Israelites and makes them a promise and says, if you listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, then I will not make you suffer any of the diseases I sent on the Egyptians. For I am the Lord who heals you. I think that this verse tells us that the way that the way sorry the way that we can be healthy um is through trusting what God says and obeying his commands. Just as he promised the Israelites, he promised them healing and life without suffering under one condition, that they obey him. And finally, what is healthy biblically? In Jeremiah 33:6, it says, I will heal my people and will let them enjoy abundant peace and security. I think the main idea of this verse aligns with the definition of the word health in the Bible. It shows us that health isn't only about being healed from diseases, but that it is physical, mental, and spiritual. God promises to let his people enjoy abundant peace and security, and we as Christians can enjoy God's peace and security by giving our lives to him to have him make us healthy. I think it's important to point out that this picture just kind of represents holistic health and how it's not all in one circle, but they're all divided into different things. And then finally, I think the best thing that I can do is leave you with some recommendations. First, while I believe that health is holistic, it is important that you discern your own definition of health. Second, I think it's important to keep an eye on the types of things that you consume on social media as they may be harming you without you even knowing it. And lastly, I think it's important to realize that health is not intermittent and that is continuous, therefore, it is a lifestyle.
Want to open it up to the guests first? Y'all got any questions or comments or feedback or whatever you
I think you did a great job expressing
Okay. I'm not one to really talk about myself, but around this time last year, I was diagnosed with an eating disorder. It's called orthorexia, which is not commonly seen on the eating disorder like chain. So like if you look at a scale, it's anorexia and bulimia, but it doesn't really fit anywhere in there. But it's defined as the unhealthy obsession with healthy eating. And so it's kind of ironic because you would think that if you're obsessed with like eating healthy, that would be a good thing, but it's actually not because it causes lots of anxiety around food, social places, and just like food in general. I think that's a main reason why I chose to kind of dissect the word healthy and figure out for myself what it actually means.
got. I'll jump in real quick. I like that you took a topic and it wasn't so. And we talked about this a little bit. Like it wasn't so clear cut. Like what exactly you wanted to say or where you wanted to go with it. Like it was develop your own ideas on it. Like the research is there, obviously, references. Um, like that's a really good. That's one of those like unspoken goals that we have for these projects. Is like, what are you working on personally? Like, what is something that you're trying to get before you start this next chapter of life? Like, this is just really good for you to go ahead and get settled. This is a really good example, especially in our culture. You mentioned, and I think this might lead to a question. You mentioned like culture in terms of like what our culture is expecting from us. There's a lot of cultural expectations, and you put that on social media, and it just magnifies whatever problems are there, or just not magnified, right? Um, and then you also use an interesting word, perception. This is an issue of perception. What is perceived? Because so like you're talking mainly about chasing after this amorphous idea of health and what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, on the other end of things, there are folks that just don't care one way or another, and they end up being more health. Everybody's got that grandma that's been drinking Dr. Pepper since lives to be 102 and all that stuff, right? Meanwhile, all of us are just trying to make sure we get enough water a day. Like what in the world is going on? And it does have a lot to do with, I think, cultural expectations and perception. So, like, maybe if you got anything, like, do you have any comments on how much of this is cultural? It's not just a personal perception, but how much culture perceives. Like, you talk a little bit about social media, but like, what do you think? Okay, do you think that there's any type of trend towards having a more healthy view of health?
Yeah, I guess the redundancies. I would think so because, like, you look at the word health and you see people like I don't know, people push their um kind of view, and it gets like what was the question?
Yeah, it's more just your observation than anything. Like, are there okay? So you showed us several examples on social media where it's like, fine, for every piece of advice saying this is how you are to be healthy, you could find someone saying literally the exact opposite, and this. So here's a question: have you found anybody out there or anything out there this I can get behind?
I don't think there's one exact like this is it. Mm-hmm. It's all just like balance. Like you have to decide that, but then that goes back into personal. But just deciding that what is good for you to like take in is not always just like there's not one right.
So in other words, I'm just helping us think through this. It's not, we have to be the kind of people that don't let culture dictate
Mhm.
our own self worth is kind of a dangerous word. How we evaluate ourselves, we can't let culture tell us how we are to evaluate. At least not to the point where it's unhealthy. It's just crazy ironic to me that some of the most unhealthy practices right now have that big banner of health. Right? Some of those dangerous workout programs are exactly they're workout programs and they're hurting people. You know, it's a diet and it's hurting people. Crazy ironic. I'm sorry. I'll quit yapping. Anybody else got any questions, comments, thoughts?
Um, so I think it's important to have like a support group, like I did with my friends and family. And so I guess there's like a specific story. This one time I wanted to have ice cream at Culver's, and Caitlin, Ava, and Abigail were all with me, and I was like so worried about like the calories in it, and like telling myself that I couldn't have it. And they took my phone. They like mobile ordered it and ordered it for me. And so I think that just for somebody to just step up and be like, it is okay. Um, that just is kind of.
Self image and stuff like that. All of that goes into
How you were saying? I think that they all like intertwine within each other. So like, say that you're not eating healthy, well then you're not gonna have the like want to work out work out more, or like mentally you're just not gonna like be in the right mindset.
like when you're talking about the BMI, it's really
Mm-hmm.
effective. So it goes both ways. What are what's some? I know there's drink water. Is there something that we can all look at?
I had a similar problem, I think. Part of your point is what is healthy for one person may not
Yeah.
necessarily be healthy for another person. But are there things that across the board everybody should, like, like the water thing? Yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody's pretty much everybody needs to drink more water, right? But like, are there other things where is that kind of the question?
Well, it's not even like
Yeah, like I don't think it's like a checklist, but I think that there's like things that you can be doing that are good for your health, like walking and
they're like a certain you either don't. That's
just knowing that you can have balance between, like, for instance, like if I go out to dinner after I've worked out, that I can still have fries with my dinner, even though there is something that's deemed unhealthy. You're still being healthy because you moved your body. You're feeling it. Like there's no like.
how do you? Like I know you deal with
Yeah.
some stuff like being. I feel like I can really relate to that. Like everything I like eat, I'll always be like beating myself up about it, and I feel like that causes more like body dysmorphia, self image, just like guilt almost that kind of just wears on me all day. It doesn't matter what I even if I eat healthy that day, I'll like keep on going back to like that one thing I ate that was bad. And especially like, how do you deal with that? Especially if you don't have a support.
Um, that's a good point because I exactly get where you're coming from, but I think just learn like redefining your own definition of healthy, like and knowing that you can have balance between like say you eat something that's one thing that you deem as bad, but that's not going to ruin like the rest of your day, and just like keeping that in your mind, grounding, repeating to yourself that it is okay. That's like really helps.
So something along those lines. I'm curious to hear from so old man in the room. My health goals have changed over the years. Where now it's like I'm not really to give the candid conversation. I'm not really working out to impress anybody. I'm working out because I'd like to meet my grandkids. You know, like I'm working out to like not hurt, to be able to walk up steps and stuff. Like I've just got very different because I am. I'm officially at that point in my life where it's like if I don't exercise, my joints. Is there something to for your stage of life? Not necessarily worried about longevity as much as you are necessarily just what can you speak to what would be a good goal? Like what would be other than just having like a ripped figure or being able to lift a certain amount of pounds or whatever. I know comparison becomes a really big problem with this, right? Like again, a social media problem is like, wow, I don't look like that. So I'm gonna go beat myself up and starve myself so that I can eventually. That seems like a very unhealthy goal. Speak to goals, like what would be a in terms of a mindset of like this is what I'm working out for.
I think, I mean, like you said, you're working out to like, or trying to be healthy to see your grandkids, but it could be the same for like someone our age, like to get through college, to be healthy enough to have kids, to take care of those kids, to teach them like what is healthy and what how they should go about their life.
Because it's weird, like I think there is something to like eating health, being healthy, eating right, exercising, all the stuff that comes under that category, right? Like I think those are good in and of themselves, but also like idolatry thing, right? Like if it becomes if the thing becomes an ultimate thing, it's a problem. So like I think it's really healthy. It's really important that you know like why exactly am I doing this? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I pushing? Especially when y'all get. I'm kind of a fan of pushing yourself how much you can accomplish, not necessarily to an extreme, but like being able to push yourself and keep it in perspective. So what exactly is the reason? Why am I trying to accomplish? Not a question. I'm just.
I just think like to be able to um, know like what you are capable of, like you were saying, and be able to feel the best in yourself. Because even if you don't care like at all, then you're you're not caring for yourself.
Anybody got anything else?
Yes.
So, where do you draw the line? So, like, I know I'm like hesitant to use the word but like, there's a lot of like drugs that are not coming
Yeah.
out like that allow you to like body fat percentage like famously like super fast, and like people are like signing up to do it. Like everybody, I know a bunch of moms
Like
that are using it, and I'm just like,
Ozempic, Mounjaro.
yeah, like what are like is that healthy or like where do you see that fall?
I would say like it depends. Like if you're using it for like there's different reasons. If you're using it primarily to lose weight, then no, I don't think it's healthy. But if you're using it because some of those things are used for other reasons like diabetes and stuff, so that's where I think. But like even like with like bodybuilding, when people like injecting stuff, like I don't think I don't think that's. I mean, somebody else could because they think it um, betters their performance.
Now we don't even like there's this is kind of an aside from your project, but like there's this whole thing about discipline, right? Now I can get all these benefits without actually having to be disciplined. That was the steroids issue, right? Like I can get strong without actually having to go. healthy without actually having the discipline of being healthy, yeah, that doesn't seem too terribly healthy. So like, sorry for the, not sorry, the kind of person that is trying to get, oh, he left. I was just gonna tell Tyler I made good on his comment. The kind of person who's finding shortcuts to health, probably not healthy in other ways. Like maybe they got some physical health going on. The kind of person that's willing to shortchange themselves in order to get this status that they have in their mind. Very healthy.
And I think that kind of speaks back to what Cadence was saying about like the difference between all four of them, and even like taking a shortcut could show that you're not like mentally healthy.
Let's say, because I know when we talk about goals, it's unhealthy to have a goal because I know that. Oh well, I want to do it because I want to be
I
healthy.
I don't think that's like a bad thing, but I think it can become bad if you start to like idealize like a specific body type or a specific image. But like working out to like make yourself feel better, to have like a certain like body type, I don't think is necessarily unhealthy unless you're idealizing it.
Cut down diet, like it could get really
Yeah. Um, I think taking it slow, like one thing at a time, especially like just start by going to the gym, going on a walk, or like something very simple. And then I don't think it's a good idea to like first like jump into a diet, because at our age it's not necessarily like the most important. And so you can work out, and then if you start to like working out, and then it becomes in your schedule, and then you can slowly like incorporate all the other.
That's what makes patience a virtue. Patience is a universally good thing to have, even in something as like as realistic as healthy. It's going to require that you be a patient person, and that's part of the like some. I guarantee, like if we went down the line and started thinking, what's an unhealthy practice? What is something that people are doing that is just really bad for them? I bet you if we talked about it, we could find a point at which whatever those things are, whatever that list of things, every single thing on that list is going to involve somebody wanting to cut a corner, somebody wanting to get something a little faster than what they should have done. You know, like all these crazy like people trying to make weight for different sports and different things that they're having to do. They're trying to cut way too much, way too fast. So they're trying to build way too much, way. Maybe there's something to that. That like patience is just a thing that really good point though. Like, okay, cool. Then what do I do now? Or whatever you do, oh,
Do you think something's objectively unhealthy?
Like
Like, do you think
like
there's something
anything.
that you feel like is objectively unhealthy?
I think I definitely struggle with that. Like saying that my example about like French fries, like they're like fast food is like on an unhealthy podium, but I think that if you're not only eating fast food all the time, like then no, it's not unhealthy. If that there's not like one specific.
like you were saying with the everyone
Mm-hmm.
at some point
To step in and like, I think yeah, and like obviously like a kind way to be like, this isn't right. But then there's sometimes like people, it's so like ingrained in their head that what they are doing is healthy, and so it's hard for them to like. It's just like another person telling them like thinking that they're picking on them or something. But I do think that it is right to like point it out and be like, this is not right. I mean, y'all can advocate for like last year, like class. And so they would be like, oh, like that's not necessary. But yeah.
You've got a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Looking over here, and I feel like I will say, like, something keeps coming back to mind. Last year we had a presentation, and he was always wanting to work out or whatever, did his project on lifting and unhealthy exercise, unhealthy practices. Steroids was a part of the conversation. It was along the same lines, and I probably did it in here where I made fun of the fact that people get any type of like physical fitness, health related project. What Bible verse, like, and then I make y'all do some biblical integration, right? What Bible verse does everybody typically go to?
I can do all things.
The body is a temple thing, but then also
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, says the 5'2" guy who's wanting to go to the NBA. I can do all things through. Nothing's impossible. Okay, calm down. Hear me out. He came up to me like this guy did it and was like, look, I know you make fun of it, but I think I have an idea here. And he went and did a really good study, and that whole passage, this is why context is really important, right? Whenever you're reading scripture, context is very important. That verse lies in a paragraph, and the paragraph is all about being content. Paul says, I have learned to have a lot of stuff. I've learned to have nothing. I've been in a situation in my life where I have an abundance of possessions. I've been at a point in my life where I'm impoverished, I'm poor. And I have learned that whatever state I'm in, therewith to be content. Because, why? Because anything I need to do, Jesus will give me the power to do it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My strength is not in my diet. My strength is not in my workout. My strength is in Jesus. So like this kind of goes back to what Cadence has been pushing for. It's like, hey, whatever that is, whatever health looks like for you, I would also encourage you, like, be content with that. Don't push for something that God didn't intend for you to have. Don't push for something that God may find you better not having. It's amazing to me how many times we ask God to remove things from our life that He gave us. Contrast that with how many times we ask God for something to give us something that He probably doesn't want us to have. Well, how could you say that, Mr.? How would you know that God doesn't want us to have it? Well, did He give it to you? Y'all seen how this works? So maybe it's not so much a matter of like all of these health goals, like what else has been talking about this whole time. All of these health goals that our culture just kind of pushes on us. These arbitrary numbers that we're supposed to achieve somehow. Rather than being discontented with ourselves, we need to just be content in Christ. That I'm gonna make sure to live life as best as I possibly can in accordance to God's will. And hey, if that means that I'm looking like this person,
10,000 steps a day. Like,
yeah,
that's fine.
If that means that I'm achieving those things, cool. If it doesn't, I've learned that whatever state I'm in, I mean, you want to talk about a health goal? I know you probably won't go into your gym today and see a big poster that says contentment, but that's probably a good health goal, right? It's like just have virtues on the wall. Imagine I need to open a gym. Anybody else got any other comments or questions? All right, good job.
Thank you.